Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. I am joined by Moist Noodle. Obviously, my permanent co-host has been Croncy for a while now, but he works on New Year's Eve. So he's actually working right now. I think they just hit New Year's in Australia where he's at. So make sure you guys wish him a Happy New Year if you guys haven't yet. But I thought a perfect replacement co-host would be someone who's been on this podcast plenty of times, Moist Noodle. So Moist, for people who don't know who you are, first off, how are you doing? Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. But
thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'm great. I'm not Australian. I'm British, Welsh, English. I've played Star Citizen since 2014, and I've Mike for a long time. I primarily PvP. Dogfight, terrible at FPS. Probably should try and get a little bit better.
Play some Gun Rush.
Yeah, pretty much me. I mainly pirate.
Nice, simple, and that's mostly what I've had you on the show for. Is if it wasn't talking about you and just having other people get to know you, we would talk a lot about the state of PvP and things like that. And I was originally going to make the topic of the show be basically how do you regain your passion for Star Citizen? Noodle has been gone for a while. Was talking about DCS, playing DCS on stream a lot, and then is now kind of making a comeback. And for those of you guys that watch the React channel, I've been reacting to a few of his videos. They've been absolutely incredible. The most notable one, I think, was probably the controls one for now. I'm sure the best ones are yet to come still. But would you say that your passion is renewed because of content creation with the game? Or do you think your passion is renewed in general with the game, and why? Why not?
I think it's a mixture. You know, I played EVE Online for 10 years.
Yep.
And the only reason I really played EVE Online was because there were no other kind of multiplayer-based games out at the time, not at that kind of scale. But the more I played that game, the more I realized I was kind of playing it for the wrong reasons. Towards the end of my tenure in that game, I was actually part of a pirate organization. Sorry, I think you had a siren the way.
It's fine.
Yes.
Barely.
And I loved the pirate gameplay in that game, and you know, it's a particular type of person who enjoys that play style as well. And I like hanging out with those kinds of people. You know, they're just super chill. They just want to have fun. And then, yeah, when I came over to Star Citizen, I was super excited for something a little bit more hands-on, because I actually come from a flight simmy type background. My first flight simulator game was Flight Simulator 3 from Microsoft. So I've been playing for a long time. And I just wanted something hands-on. I could use joysticks and actually use skill and aim and flight maneuvers. And I was always excited for the premise and the future of Star Citizen. And I think I always, you know, it's very easy, especially when you're a Star Citizen content creator, to burn out.
Yes.
Especially when you're playing the game most days of the week and you're trying to be entertaining for people. And I somehow managed to kind of maintain enthusiasm for multiple years, up until we kind of got the announcement CIG that they were moving a lot of developers away from Star Citizen over to Squadron 42. And I think for me, as soon as they made that announcement, it just kind of felt like, for me, the game died. Obviously, it didn't. We were still getting patches, but it just felt like development was going to slow down. It was more about losing that hope, pretty much. So I tried to work out what to do. You know, I had some personal things happen at the beginning of the year as well that kind of made me want to take a back seat. So everything kind of came around at the same time. Yeah, I decided to just spend more time playing CS because my partner plays DCS and a bunch of our friends play DCS. I actually brought a whole load of people from the Star Citizen community over to DCS as well, and I was
He
teaching
tried
people.
with me. I wasn't having
it's definitely not your kind of game.
No.
For sure. It's a lot of intense learning, because you are essentially learning to fly an aircraft. For those who might be interested, I fly the F-16 and the I'd fly a little bit of the F-18 as well. But yeah, going to SitCon, I kind of started picking up my enthusiasm for Star Citizen again, kind of before going to SitCon. But going to SitCon, for anyone who's never been to one of those events, I can really recommend going, because even if you, like, I suffer with social anxiety. I think a lot of people suffer with social anxiety, but going to those events is actually really easy because everyone has that mutual talking point. No matter what, you can always fall back on what's your favorite ship.
Yeah, it's not a random party that, nobody knows anybody and nobody knows what to talk about. It's very easy.
Exactly. And this was, I've been to a couple of SitCons now. This was my third, I think. This was definitely the best one yet. And I joked before we started recording that 2024 is going to be the best year for Star Citizen. But I genuinely do think that 2024 is going to be the best year for Star Citizen. We've got a lot of really exciting stuff on the horizon.
Yeah.
And that's really helped bring back my motivation. Come back to your question, has creating content kind of helped this enthusiasm back? Yeah, and it has. And the funny thing is that I always said that I would never be a YouTuber. Mainly because I'm so lazy, dude.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It depends on like what type of content that you want to make, but the type of content that I want to make is definitely quite intense. And I can't. What was the first video that I put out? The rock paper scissors video. That video kind of came out of a conversation that I had on stream, because especially with like the F8 coming out, I think a lot of people don't either forgot or don't realize that there isn't supposed to be like a I win meta chip. And that it is every ship is supposed to have strengths and weaknesses. So I just kind of had the idea of making a video like that, and it kind of turned into something bigger than I had originally intended, because there's a particular type of style. I don't know if you ever watch like Sunbright Films on YouTube. They have like a series called Abandoned, where they make documentaries about like abandoned malls and abandoned theme parks and bankrupt businesses, stuff like that. And it's just that style of video, documentary style video, I absolutely love. So that's kind of the style that I wanted to go down. And then after making Bright Sun Films, and then after making that video, I had so much really great feedback from that video. It kind of, I didn't expect the type of feedback that I had from it. And going back to EVE Online, something that I learned from that game was I was actually friends with several of the developers from CCP Games. And I kind of learned from them, it's always good as a creator to take your feedback and run with it. And I took the feedback from that video, and I had a lot of comments from people talking about, dogfighting and PvP, but specifically about the settings of the game. So that's when I kind of brought out the settings video, and then from the settings video, I'm now working on a video specific about aiming, because so many of the comments on that video were specifically
my aim
settings. So yeah, exactly. No, your aim is incredible.
But the reason my aiming was good in the times that we've played together was because of you helping me with my settings for aiming. Like specifically around ESP and all those things. Like that was some of the light bulb moments that I've had when my aiming was good. I would say my aiming was good, Noodle. I don't know if it is good anymore. I am so out of practice.
Oh, dude, I actually went into Arena Command. So it's really funny because I always get people coming into my chat, and I don't think I'm a great dogfighter. I've always pretty much said I'm fairly average. well, above average probably, because I don't Arena Commander at all.
Yeah.
I only play in the PU because I don't. The reason I got into Star Citizen is because I like to feel like I'm living a universe, right?
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy playing arena games that much. You know, I was never into games, Overwatch.
Mm.
So it's one of the reasons I like DCS, you know, because it feels like you're actually world and you're doing like an operation. So the only PvP I really get is in the PU, and it's from that I've kind of built up my skills. But yesterday I did actually hop into Arena Commander, for the first time in like 3 years, and I definitely was humbled quite a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
I got kills, but I got killed a lot.
Yep.
The thing that was super brutal though is that on the 23rd of December, my gaming PC died.
Yeah.
It was pretty rough. The file system for Windows just fell apart. So I spent 20 hours trying to fix it, and realized I wasn't going to get it back. So ended up doing a complete fresh install of Windows, and I've had to set everything up from scratch again, which includes all of my settings for my
Yep.
joysticks.
That's where I'm at right now. I had
For
the same
Star
problem.
Citizen. So yeah, that's been pretty rough. But yeah, going into Arena Commander, it kind of gave me the opportunity to go through the settings and watching all the footage back, because I'm making a video about settings revolving around aiming. It's actually pretty perfect because I show shots towards the beginning of the video. The video's not out yet. Hopefully today's going to be way technical than I thought it was going to. But I kind of show examples at the beginning of like the default ESP settings and how bad my aim is. And then later on in the video, you can see how I've kind of dialed in the ESP setting. And then in the video, I actually show how you can work out for yourself what settings you need, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Nice.
But yeah, that was kind of fun. And the other thing that making YouTube content has done for me is kind of encouraged me to play the game in ways that I wouldn't normally. Like, I wouldn't normally go into Arena Commander. That's not normally my kind of thing. But because of making the video, I've been going into Arena Commander. And the other thing that's really helped me over the last few weeks as well is Coastin. My friend Coastin from Blue Buckets, he is an incredible FPS player. He comes from Rainbow Six Siege background, and he plays a lot of the finals, and he is actually like a human aimbot. It's insane watching him play games like the finals. And I've been trying to get him into Star Citizen more, and you know, he was talking about the fact that he kind of wanted to get into streaming more, so we've been streaming together. And
Hell yeah.
the one thing that we've kind of been doing together is we've been doing things that we wouldn't normally do in game. You know,
Hell
and
yeah.
when you were saying to me about doing some training together, and I said, oh, maybe I should actually try taking up mining, I was actually being serious, because
Nice.
I've actually kind of had fun over the last few weeks playing the game in ways that I wouldn't play it. And
So just in case you guys haven't seen these videos, was it the it was the rock paper scissors video where you told everybody that we're going to basically Noodle's going to train me, and I was like,
yeah.
well, if you're going to train me in this, I have to teach you how to mine, because it's something that I'm sort of relearning myself as well, and I think teaching makes you learn things faster, and I think it'll just be better in general. The only time I've ever taken Noodle mining, he just low flied until he crashed into the ground because he didn't want to actually do it. And it was like,
I was your security, okay?
yeah, in a prospector.
Yeah.
But yeah, Noodle, basically I'm an idiot. Take a look at our message. If you Yeah, I need you in. I'm dumb. I'm basically, guys, I made a call with Noodle, but in order to get the callers in, we have to be in the live channel on my Discord, and I just wasn't thinking, so I'll pop you in there, and then we'll get going. So Noodle might be muted for just a little second here. It's not going to mess with the video or anything.
I'm swapping now.
Nope, no problem. All right, and then I'm swapping, and then this could allow me to bring Noodle in. There you go.
Hello.
Testing. Perfect. And volumes are all good still, so we're good. Nice. Just a little hiccup. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to get now into a little bit of the actual topic of the show today. Is there was a lot said about what next year will be like from CIG at the end of the year. And I think a lot of people are sort of maybe overhyping. I made a video myself over the break that I think this is going to be the best year for Star Citizen. But does that mean it's going to be the year? Right. And I think like we're already seeing creators make videos of saying it's going to be the year because of the video that we're watching on screen now, which is what Jared essentially was saying, like all this stuff that the year is going to be. And I know I'm not an optimist, but I just don't buy it, dude. I don't think it's
going to be. I don't think it's going to be the. And the reason for that, I'll preface this by saying I used to be a server engineer. That's my background. And I worked for one of the largest server hosting companies in Europe, and I worked for them while they were rolling out a new cloud product. And something that I kind of learned going through that process and from my time being a Star Citizen backer is that when you have such large sweeping changes, those changes come with a lot of
what? Your noise
issues.
gate's taking over sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if it's Discord or whatever.
That might be Discord, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I have a noise gate, so you could just shut it off for today if you want. It's up to you. But yeah, I mean, in general, just while you're figuring that out, like my basic like premise of that video was the year is going to be different for everybody. And what I need personally is in order for it to be the year for Star Citizen, it has to be the year that I play the game day in and day out, and I have no issues doing it, right? It is your daily driver game, which Star Citizen just can't be yet. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to be the best year ever, probably, because every other year was the best year ever. It's just a matter of what do we actually get,
Yeah. Is this better, by the way?
Much better, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but we're going to see a lot of new mechanics being added to the game over this next year, I think. And with those mechanics and core engine changes, we're going to see a lot of bugs, right? So I think it's going to be an exciting time in terms of trying out new game mechanics, new gameplay. I'm personally mostly looking forward to the new UI changes because, goddamn, we still have the same bugs today with the map and the quantum system that we had on day one when they were implemented. But I think while a lot of people are going to be excited to try that stuff, we're going to see a lot of issues. I don't know if we're going to see Vulkan implemented over this next year, but I can guarantee you that's going to cause issues when they roll out DLSS. That's probably going to cause issues. Server meshing is going to cause issues. So yeah, it's going to be exciting and frustrating. Yeah,
exactly. And I think if you followed Star Citizen long enough, which I think most of the people who follow my channels probably have, I don't think, I notoriously do not have a very high referral count because I think most people are pretty understanding of the game at this point that follow me and are like, yeah, this guy's starting to resonate with me, right? And when people are sort of getting frustrated with the game. And I just basically think everybody is expecting issues, but what I guess matters the most right now is what features are we going to get? What specifics are going to make the game a little bit more interesting? I know somebody like yourself has to be hyper fixated and excited for master modes, if at the very least just to have something different, have some. You may not like master modes, I could see it on your face, and that's fine, but to have whatever they're going with and just have something that it it has to be. And I meant to mention this earlier, when everybody moved over to Squadron and started doing the master modes thing, there was a time in Star Citizen's history where players like yourself were being supported every patch. Every patch there was a balance update to ships. Every patch there was new weapons coming. Every patch there was new stuff coming for PvPers. And there was never anything for players like me who wanted to mine and salvage and do all this other stuff, like economy stuff. We've been getting a little bit more of that this year and a lot less for you guys. And the last couple of years have been brutal for you guys because this team just went off and did their own thing. Now with them coming back, whether you like the changes or not, I feel like at least being in a system that they're going to stick to, it seemingly has to be considered a positive. What do you think?
I'm very open-minded.
Yeah.
My only concern with master modes is it was actually the F8 that mostly kind of got me onto this mindset, in that I ended up buying myself an F8. I flew it for 30 minutes once, and I physically fell asleep while flying that ship because it's so boring.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about master mode, and I think the thing that I'm mostly concerned about with master modes is that I'm gonna fall out of love with combat in Star Citizen, because I'm worried that it's just gonna become too dull.
It's interesting though, because don't you think the attempt is to be more like DCS in terms of like the way the ships fly?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't fly my F-16 in space very often, so it's I don't think they can really they can only do so much, right, with trying to make it feel like DCS. Now, master modes isn't what's going to make it feel like DCS.
True.
What will make it feel more like DCS are flight control services, right?
Yep.
Having rudder and ailerons, etc., etc. And they showed a little bit of that at SitCon, and I'm really excited for that. And I think people like myself who play DCS will definitely be at an advantage when control surfaces come out, when it comes to atmospheric fighting, because we already understand the concepts of, for example, merging and 1 and 2 circle dogfights, right? But when it comes to master modes, I've always been a light and medium fighter in Star Citizen, and this, when I say that, do not confuse what I'm saying with thinking that I like to go fast. Anybody who watches my stream will know that I generally always fly quite slowly. You know, especially with the F8 being such a popular ship at the moment. The moment that I see an F8 getting up to speed, I literally just hold the space brake, and then I let them come back to me, because you know, I'm just not interested at fighting at speed. It's horrible. So I just worry that what they're doing with master modes will just slow light fighters down a little bit too much. And what I have in my head when I think about what they might be doing with master modes is what was that, Star Wars Squadrons?
Mm-hmm.
When I think about the combat in that game, I think I played through the little campaign that game had, and then I did a little bit of multiplayer stuff, and I just found the combat in that game to be so boring. Because what we have in Star Citizen right now is technical. I think that's probably, sorry, I'm kind of forming my thoughts as I go, but I worry that we're kind of going to lose some of the technical we have now. And I completely understand that there are issues with the flight model that we have right now. And I like the idea of switching between modes, you know, having a combat mode, having a navigation mode. And that was actually something that I was talking about years ago. That you know, it was something that I would like.
Hell, we used to have it.
Yeah,
There were just no real negatives to it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we could have those modes without kind of like dumbing down the flight. But yeah, I won't
Yeah,
keep
we'll see.
ranting about master modes. We'll see what happens. Again,
Yeah.
I'm open minded, and I'm not going to sit here and complain until we actually have something tangible to play with. You know.
Yeah. I think like one of the things that is always going to be weird is that light fighters were always so the ship to use that no matter
Yeah.
what happens, they're going to feel like they're just like not as good as they used to be, no matter what they do. You
Yeah,
know?
and the thing that's hard is that I don't think master modes was the solution to that. The solution to that was armor, right?
Yeah,
But for
100%.
some reason or another, CIG just kept putting off physical armor. For those who don't know, oh, other than your shields, ships are supposed to have armor, right? And I don't exactly know how it's supposed to work. Whether it's going to be like the type of armor system that War Thunder has, where it takes like angles and deflection into account or anything like that. But yeah, an arrow shouldn't be able to just, you know, sit on top of an F8 and absolutely annihilate an F8. But again, the solution shouldn't be slowing light fighters. The solution should be adding armor, you know.
Yeah. And for whatever reason that system has taken, they've been talking about it for so long and just it's never been worked on. Like like it may have been discussed, but it's never been actually implemented into the game in any way, shape, or form until maybe what we saw this year at CitizenCon. And to bring it back a little bit more prediction wise, um, what do you expect to see in relation to flight combat in 2024? Do you think we'll see master, like one of the first things that Jared said in that video was that master modes was coming in the first half of the year. And while they've had 2 years to work on this thing, how many years have they been working outside of Squadron? I have no idea. How are they going to get through all these ships? How are we going to go from the Arrow all the way down to the Mole with this system? And how is it
The
going
only
to
way I
feel
can see
good?
them, the only way I can see them doing it is by making all light fighters handle exactly the same initially, or medium fighters handle exactly the same initially.
Yeah,
Kind of like they did with components, right? How
they
they
should
basically made all components the same. Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea as long as we're not sat with that
for
for
2 years, 3
for
years.
2, 3, 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Like they've taken so long with the
Mm-hmm.
components that it's a little pressing, really. But in terms of kind of what I'm looking forward to in terms of flight or combat, it absolutely is the control surfaces.
Okay.
Right now, I enjoy, well, up until the F8, I really enjoyed fighting in atmosphere in Star Citizen. The reason it's a little different now is I actually I was playing with Coastin last night while he was streaming, and we had some really, really great fights at Jumptown. But unfortunately, almost every single person in this group was either flying a Hornet Ghost that we couldn't see over 2 kilometers, or they were flying Fate. And trying to fight both of those ships in atmosphere is just, when you're not flying an F8 or a Hornet, it is pretty brutal because, yeah, you can still get on top of. I was flying the Arrow, an F8 just about, but they can slide sideways and backpedal in atmosphere as fast as I can go forwards. Right? It's almost like they don't have a flight model. So it's super brutal, and
I don't
you know,
think
if
they
you,
do. I think they
it's nuts.
are. I think. I mean, dude, the ship goes 1,337 meters per second. It was always a meme, and they didn't change anything for it because I really think the marketing team made all the decisions there, and no people who actually care about the balance of the game or their job is to care about the balance of the game was prioritized to work on
I'll be
that
honest
ship.
with you. I don't want to sit here bitching, but I'm going to bitch for a moment because the F8, I really feel the F8, its implementation left me feeling really negative towards CIG. Because on one hand, they're saying, okay, we need to slow combat down. So we're implementing master mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, they implement a new heavy fighter that's one of the tankiest fighter, or it is the tankiest fighter in the whole game, with the most firepower in the whole game, and they also made it one of the fastest ships in the whole game. And the issue with this, right, is again it comes back to the rock paper scissors, right? They've given it the rock, the paper, and the scissors in this. Is it agile? No, not necessarily. But the problem for those who don't understand is that say I'm fighting an F8 and I'm in an arrow, or I'm in a hornet, or even if I'm in another F8, I can sit there shooting and shooting and shooting at its shields. And because it has so much HP on its shields, that pilot has plenty of time to not only land shots on me, but to make decisions, and decide, oh, should I stay in the fight? Should I stay in the fight? Whatever. And that's great. And even once you're through the shields, the actual ship itself is so friggin' tanky to a point where, because of the top speed on that thing, as it's accelerating away from me, say I'm in an arrow, yeah, I can keep up with it, but then it has the higher top speed. So the moment, I'm not exaggerating when I say, the majority of fights that I have in the PU right now are against F8.
Of course.
I fight them in my arrow. I fight them with the Aurora MR.
And that's insane to think about, because every single person had to buy that ship.
Yeah, and I will sit there shooting it, and it takes ages to chew through its shields. But the moment you get their shields to about half, and this is the majority of fights that I have against F8 pilots in the PU, the moment their shields get to half, they just run away and recharge their shields. And it's a stalemate because they can't hit me because, I know how to jink.
Let me switch the topic just a tiny bit, because somebody's saying this in chat, and I want to see what you think, because I know how I think, but I don't know if I think what I think is true. The F8C can't dodge missiles, though. Does that change anything about? No. First off, that changes nothing about the implementation.
That's
of
a whole. That's a whole other conversation.
Problem with the game. Like a lot of ships can't dodge missiles because the game is bad. Like it's broken in that way.
I don't even want to have that conversation because
I don't either.
Because believe it or not, I'm actually working on a video about missiles.
Okay.
Not to bitch about missiles in Star Citizen, but to discuss future missile gameplay and what it could be.
Yeah. Because what it is now is, it's not even a conversation to have.
But the fact of the matter is, if you think trying to dodge a missile in an F8 is bad, try dodging a missile, dude, in an Aurora MR.
Yeah.
Go and watch my stream sniping video on YouTube, right? And those guys, I was in an Aurora MR, and there was like 4 of them just spamming missiles at me. And in an Aurora MR, you have to drop every single flare that you have, and you still won't dodge the missile. It's awful. No. So yeah, I don't think it's healthy to complain about missiles with the F8 when it's not just the F8. The fact of the matter is, missiles are broken, flares are broken. It's boring gameplay. And the most fun that I've had in the last year was the short period of time missiles didn't work.
Yep. And dude, we were all talking. Yeah, we were talking about how this would be the coolest jump town ever because missiles might not be a thing.
The funny thing? I talked to one of the guys from CIG and I was like, dude,
why?
Please don't fix it. Please don't fix it. And he was like, dude, I can't wait for this next jump town because there won't be any A2s. And I was like, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And it would have been so good.
It would have been amazing.
So good.
And unfortunately, they came back. But all right, let's take it from conversing about the game a little bit to like bring it. We're going to bring some callers in and all that stuff. So I want to hear your 5 things that you expect to see in 2024 and 5 things. I was going to say that you don't, but that's kind of maybe stupid. But what are 5 features that we've seen at CitizenCon, maybe we haven't seen at CitizenCon, that you expect to see in 2024? What does 2024 look like for Moist Noodle? It doesn't have to be the things that you're most anticipated for, things that you actually think are going to happen. And we're going to save the show, and we're going to look back next year and be like, were we right? Which we definitely won't be.
Stuff that I'm generally excited for is I tend not to get excited for things that are quite far out because I just find that disappointing.
Same.
But in terms of stuff that I'm looking forward to and I'm hoping that we're going to get in 2024, new map, absolutely.
As in like Pyro?
No, the map, the actual star map in the game.
Yeah.
It's the worst map of any game I've ever interacted with.
Yep.
And I've got a friend called Andy, a local friend, who refuses to play Star Citizen until we have a new map because he got that frustrated with it.
Not gonna lie though, the map at CitizenCon wasn't that much better. It's more functional.
So the issue that I had with what they showed at SitCon was that I don't know why they felt the need to have the map in a very small space in the center of your screen. Just open it up to the full size of the screen, please. Yeah. But as long as I can actually zoom into a location without all the locations, the clickable locations disappearing. Again, when we talk about this stuff, we know all these workarounds, right?
Yeah.
But think about it from the point of view of somebody who's brand new to the game and they're trying to zoom and to click on a location and it disappears when they zoom in. How stupid is that?
Yeah.
If
they even get that far.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm really looking forward to in general is new quantum system. Because again, a lot of us have been around for a long time. We know all the workarounds for the janky-ass quantum that we have in the game right now. But if they had actually fixed those issues, it wouldn't have been so bad. But again, we still have some of the same issues today with quantum that we had on day one of the persistent universe, right? So that says a lot. New interaction system, I'm really looking forward to.
That's one of my
quite
favorites.
frankly. When I'm carrying a box, I find it absolutely insane that I cannot click on like a door panel or anything without my character accidentally dropping the box. It drives me insane because it's so clunky. Control services, I'm super excited for, which I already talked about. And sure about the last one. I'm hoping we get the new destruction tech Maelstrom as well, because obviously one of the ships that actually got, or the ship that got me to back Star Citizen was the Reclaimer, and salvage gameplay is something that I've always been excited for in terms of Star Citizen.
And how do you feel about it now?
Fine, to be honest with you, because I actually think that hull stripping is fun. I enjoy
like hull stripping.
When I'm hull stripping, I just put on some lo-fi music. I grab myself a beer and I relax. And you know what? When you crew a Reclaimer with a few friends, you can actually have a really good time.
100%.
In terms of the munching, I completely understand. I was super glad actually to see that you had exactly the same thought process that I did. I think it was you at least, in that what they implemented was something temporary. They wanted to get something in our hands for Christmas. That's fine. Realistically, we're not going to get anything super in depth with like physicalized salvaging until we get Maelstrom, I don't think, because without Maelstrom, you can't really break a ship to pieces. So, yeah, Maelstrom is something pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I think if I was going to list off my 5, they would be actually very different from yours. For me, the single most important thing for me, and that I think will be one of the highlights of 2024, is if they continue their quality of life improvements every patch. There are some really big problems with this game still, but they have cleaned up a number of very small number, but a few of these really annoying things. So that's my number one thing that I hope and that I think will continue in 2024. My number 2 is probably replication layer and maybe very big maybe server meshing. I don't think we'll see it in live, but I think we'll see it in a preview test of some kind. That is, I think, the most important thing. I think anybody who PvPs, I think anybody who runs cargo, I think anybody, think of all the situations in the game where you're like, damn, dude, this is either boring, I can't find anybody, or I'm interacting with a cargo terminal and there's nothing there and I don't know why because the person isn't around you. You know, like little things like that just don't make any sense. And are really, really annoying. I don't know if we'll see this stuff. I was extraordinarily disappointed in the 322 implementation of it. Was the armor progression and reputation type stuff. Those are key. Like, imagine a player like yourself versus a player like me. We likely will start to have entirely different experiences in Star Citizen, spending time in entirely different places. You may live here and I may live there, like those kind of things. And I think that that's possible in 2024 is start seeing some of those things. And if personally, if I don't see a new form of crafting or a more added on form of crafting in the game, I would be pretty disappointed, but I don't necessarily expect to see something like that.
It still blows my mind, dude. Like last night, I was on the Reclaimer and I was like, damn, I forgot to get myself a multi-tool.
Yep.
But then to suddenly go, oh,
I could just
I
make
can just
one.
go and make one. That is so cool, dude.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Like, I don't know what I want crafting to look like, especially for its like first, maybe like real proper implementation. But I was talking about this in my stream yesterday. There's no such thing as S tier components. There's no like A+ or S+, you know, triple S, you know, something like that. And it just comes down to, I'm one thing that I'm really, really nervous for 2024 is what I saw in the Pyro preview. Is railguns were sold in Pyro, and I think one of the best things that they did was take certain things out of the shops and put certain things in the game.
Yeah,
And
I agree, because it actually gives you a reason to explore, right? Actually
or a
gives
reason
you
to craft, or a reason to whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we need more reasons in the game. You need more reasons. I'm dying for that. Give me reasons. I don't need the game yet because we're so far from what that might look like, but I just need more reasons. And I think the more reasons you have, the longer a patch survives and is exciting for you.
Do you know what I'd really like to see in terms of reputation?
What?
I'd like to see change around criminal behavior.
Like what?
Obviously, crime stat should always be a thing, but I think there needs to be a long-term reputation if you play as a right. Like, it's insane to me, and this is coming from somebody who plays, right? It's insane to me that I can go on a murder streak and kill like 30 people, go to prison for a little bit, then come out of prison, and I'm treated like a completely reformed individual.
The prison system in Star Citizen, I mean, it's 1,000 years in the future. It's so good that you come out just squeaky clean, you know?
Yeah, like even if I come out of prison, I should be treated a certain way by, for example, station, right? Like, I feel like hostility should remain a thing for longer. I think the crime stat that we have right now should still be a thing, right? And I used an analogy yesterday on stream. It would be, you know, like walking down the street and you have a criminal record, but you're walking down the street and nobody really knows about your criminal record, right? And
you still got to go to probation.
Yeah, but nobody is really reacting around you, right? But then if you actually start punching people in the street, then obviously then people are going to treat you slightly different, right? And that's what the crime stat is. Like, the crime stat for me is like a temporary thing in the moment that is revolves around police response. But then on top of that crime stat, you should have a long-term reputation. And
Yeah.
if you have, depending on how bad long-term criminal reputation is, you should be treated in different ways by different factions, different stations, etc., etc.
Yeah, and the same goes for lawful players. Think about there should be consequences for players rolling bounties and doing security missions and just destroying the Ninetales. One of the best
Yeah.
locations to spawn at in Crusader is Grimhex. It can spawn
Mhm.
every ship. It's got everything you need at it, but a lawful player should never be able to go there. Like
Yeah.
the Ninetales should have just as much of an understanding of who their problematic players are for them as Crusader security should know that the Ninetales are problematic in on their front. So it's like one of those things where I think 2024 should hopefully really be the year for that. Is what I really, really want to see. If you take anything from CitizenCon, I think every single panel that was gameplay related mentioned reputation in some way, shape, or form. So it seems to be very much a part of their plan in the not even in the long term necessarily, but even in the short term, and that's really really exciting. I think if I was going to point out any one feature that I think we can guarantee to see at least a small piece of, it would be that for sure, for sure. Obviously, like some of the UI stuff and all that stuff too, and some of the things we've already seen, we expect to see get improved. But that's the one that I think is the most important for me is I just think everybody should especially when we end up with Pyro is players such as yourself should have an easier time living there and spending time there, not just because you're able to defend yourself, but because you're being defended by the places where you're staying. And someone
Yeah.
like myself who absolutely it will hopefully want to go there based off of some, data mining of what mining materials might be there and what potential crafting could happen. I should have a really hard time being there because I don't
Yeah.
belong, right? If I'm mining on a moon there, the people who are, the factions that are controlling that are obviously going to want to be profiting from it themselves. They're not going to want it for me. So unless I'm working with them in some way, like that's what I want to see there be is um, the need for me to group up with you as someone who has maybe no desire to participate in PvP, even though I do have
Yeah.
desires to
It's
participate in PvP, but maybe not at that moment.
social elements in our multiplayer game, right?
Yep.
Isn't that crazy?
That would be
But
nuts.
also, what that is amazing for is as well is reputation. And I'm not talking about the mechanic reputation. I'm talking about like your actual reputation with other members of this community.
Yeah.
If you just sit in global chat all day acting like a clown, or you have spent the last 5 years pad ramming people, well, I would kind of expect that to work against you in the long term, right? So
That would be really
something,
interesting how reputation could potentially start to deal with that. I know a lot of people call for like uh people to get banned and stuff like that, and they're probably right in a lot of cases with the way some people act. But I would be so just generally curious to be like, let's say I pad ram you 5 times in a row within a 24-hour period or something like that. Don't you feel like the game should just, no matter where I go, Crusader security or some security just shows up and just one shots me? And it's
again,
like, dude, you can't do that, you know?
if you are attacking people at a station, that station should be hostile towards you, right?
And it is, but it just doesn't hit you because the game is
that's
where it's
a
at.
server issue, though,
Yeah.
right? And again, that is a short-term thing because all you have to do is jump away and come back, and then they're not shooting at you, right?
Yep.
Which is just
Long-term rep
insane.
comes back in.
It's it's part of the conversation, but something that I would like to see in 2024 as well, and I don't know if we'll see it, but I really hope so, is the final death of hard armor zones.
How do you think that would look? I don't think we can see it in 2024 unless we have very, very fast, responsive AI and servers.
I don't know. I
And we can
absolutely
make
think
that
we
part
can
of this
because
conversation.
we already have soft armistice zones in most locations, right?
Yeah. The
What
station
I'm talking
locations
about,
for sure.
what I'm talking about is the hard armistice at Grimhex should go, and the hard armistice zones that a lot of the outpost locations should go as well. Because again, there are a lot of outpost locations where there aren't armistice zones, right? But they absolutely need to add defenses at those locations.
Okay.
But I really do think, and this was something that I was talking about years ago on various podcasts, that what hard armistice zones actually do is encourage pad ramming, because
Oh yeah,
they're
it
pad ramming
really
because
has this year.
because they can't shoot you. Right? It's the only thing that they can do to you.
I don't remember the org that did this, but they sent in like a ticket to CIG and was like, "Yo, dude is sitting on the pad at SMO 10 or something like that, full of gold, just sitting there for hours on end. Am I allowed to knock into the ship and open the doors and take the stuff out?"
Yeah.
It was something like that, and CIG was kind of like, "Yeah." And then everybody was like, "Yo, pad ramming's allowed," and then things, and it was just like
slightly more nuanced than that,
Yeah, of course. And it was just like my question is I absolutely agree with you. I would love to see them go away. But do you think, because we do have soft armistice stones at the stations, and it is a short-term, short problem, even though it's been a problem for a really long time, but those defenses don't work. I mean, I don't think Virgil streams a lot, but I've seen a couple of his streams, and he just was flying around Everus, just killing everybody.
They don't work because people are idiots. With the greatest respect, if you're dying at a station, why? Because it's so easy.
Mhm.
And what I'm not talking about here, I'm not talking about people pad ramming.
Yeah.
As soon as the hangar doors open, that's a bannable offense. That's
Of course.
trash. And
Yeah.
I'm
We're
also
talking
not
about
talking about
actual PvP.
Yeah. Look, if you sat there and chose not to quantum jump out, that's on you. It is incredibly easy to get to full speed as soon as you come out of a hangar and quantum jump out. And you don't even need to be a skilled dogfighter. You just need to book it, get to full speed, jump out. What we're talking about here are people making bad decisions. Now, bringing it back to the station defenses, the station defenses are crap. I can sit in an Aurora MR and just dodge around the guns. Again, that's because of the crappy server performance. If you're on a fresh server, it's a lot harder to do that. Missiles are all over the place right now. But again, you can just jump out. Now, let's talk about hard armistice zones on Moon's planet. It's slightly different there because there's an atmosphere, and obviously every moon, every planet is slightly different. Those guns and missiles are actually a lot more deadly because it's a lot harder to get up. You can't just get up to maximum speed easily, right? It's a lot harder to dodge a missile. Think about the turrets at bunkers, right? And actually how effective they can. So yeah, for me personally, I don't think there's much of a reason not to get rid of hard armistice zone when, again, if people are dying at stations with soft armistice zones, that's because they made a bad rather than the station let it down.
Yeah, that's
now
fair.
That's not me saying that I'm not defending crappy station defenses. The station defenses absolutely need to be better.
Yeah, and I think, tying into what we talked about before, generally slowing the speeds down might also improve that in space.
Absolutely.
Like everybody is, I think, a little nervous about how powerful turrets might actually be when ships aren't moving around, buzzing around all over the place. So station turrets included.
Right? I think ship turrets will probably get a slight rework with master modes because I could see them having their aim assist toned down quite a lot just to make it a little bit more, a little bit more fair.
The aim assist was only ever there because everybody was zooming around so much. It was hard to follow things. And if they're not, there's no need for it in the way that it was. Yeah, I see it in chat. Apparently, Noodle's voice is cutting out again. It was fine for a while. I don't know.
It must be a Discord thing. It's
Yeah.
it sounds fine on my end.
Just it's very easy to follow the context clues with the conversation. So I apologize. I don't know what's going on today, guys, but yeah, like I've never had a problem with Noodle's volume or anything like that, and we're having all sorts of technical issues today. So apologies for that. With that, I think we still have a couple callers on the list. So I'm gonna bring in our first one. Their name is Space Monkey Business. Hello, Space. Can you hear us?
Yeah, hey, let me just mute the stream. Okay, now.
No problem. Yeah, topic today, 2024 predictions. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of topics, or a lot of things you can discuss. One question at the beginning.
Go with your top 3, I would say.
No, I just wanted to ask Noodle one thing since he's here and since there's a PvPer in the chat. There was a no, nothing serious. There was a video from Avenger 1 where he said you could actually change master modes to get it a bit more tactical if you up the speeds. And he said, was it 400 to 500 meters per second? And I wanted to ask you if you would agree with that, because his argument is, since the speeds are so low, you don't have a lot of tactical depth into your maneuvering and in your like fighting tactics, how you approach people, the angles and all this stuff. Yeah. So I wanted to know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, I do agree with it. I can kind of touch on my experience with DCS a little bit. It kind of comes into the conversation. So what I think he's talking about is that obviously when you have a speed limit, you can only accelerate up to that speed limit. You only have so far to go, right? And when that speed limit is slower, it makes maneuvering a lot harder because again, you have nowhere to go. Now, the reason I mention DCS is because if you actually watch a dogfight in DCS, I'm not talking about like BVR, Beyond Visual Range Missile Lobbing, I'm talking about gunfights. You essentially have what are called 1-circle and 2-circle dogfights. And generally, what it comes down to is which plane outturns the other. Now, there are little things that you can do to try and cut it. It's more about, it's like a game of chess. You kind of have to think about your moves ahead of time because once they're behind you, it's pretty much over. But the problem is, I think we'll get that type of combat in Star Citizen, in Atmosphere, absolutely. But in space, I don't think anybody just wants to be flying around in circles, slowly waiting for somebody to either get on your ass or for you to get on their ass, right? So we do need to be able to maneuver. And yeah, I do agree. I think we need a slightly higher top speed there so you actually have wiggle room. You actually have room to maneuver.
Interesting.
Well, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm also
I
curious
just watched that video too, and I was like, okay. I don't understand the like that. And I guess you explained it a little bit better. That having more wiggle room makes sense. Yeah,
because obviously you can slow down to force more space between the two of you, and then when they slow down to kind of push back onto you, it gives you a lot more maneuver room. You know.
Yeah. Fair enough. Sorry,
I'm curious if they. No worries. I'm curious if they give that a chance in the master or in the arena commander stuff to give to the community and then let experience it, because when they try it internally and they try it in a single player game against AI, the experience is totally different. So I don't know if it's
something else that's really, really difficult for CIG in terms of combat. And I'm kind of the perfect example of this because I'm super ADD, any shiny, flashy things happening all the time to keep my attention, is when you're fighting in Atmosphere, you get a very good sense of speed, especially the lower you are to the ground, but you don't have that in space very often. And the only thing that gives you a sense of speed right now is the space dust. And space dust is very contentious. I've noticed in the Star Citizen community, I am very pro space dust. Whenever CIG turn the space dust up, people lose their minds. So I really think it should just be a setting. So again, it's kind of part of this conversation as well, but you kind of need to have, they need to do something to give you that sense of speed as well. Yeah, like a visual anchor, exactly. And it's really, it's crazy that we, you know, even now we have ships that do like 1300 meters per second, right? But it doesn't, because you're
It
flying
doesn't feel like
relative,
it.
you're flying relative to the other person. It's very hard sometimes to work out what speed you're actually doing. Yeah, last night I was fighting a bunch of F8s at Jumptown in a 1v6, by the way. That was terrifying. And we were literally flying at maximum speed. But the only reason I realized that we were maximum speed was because I had nowhere else to go to maneuver, right? Because you're essentially at that speed limit. So at that point, you kind of slam on the brakes, right, and slow down. But yeah, master modes I think is going to be interesting. I try not to comment on master modes too much because I think it's still too early.
Yeah, we don't have it.
Yeah, and until they have more ships in master mode for us to really to compare them against each other, yeah, I'm not. There's a lot of people doomsaying right now, and I've just been trying to avoid being part of the conversation yet until it's a little bit more fleshed out.
Okay. Thanks. Back to the question from Mike. I think I'm most curious about the crafting and the base building stuff, or generally into kind of a progression stuff. And
Do
if
you think
crafting,
we see base building 2024? You say you're interested in it. No.
Good question. It
Other
depends.
than,
No?
are you aware of this thing? There was a bar, just in case people don't know, there was a bar
Yeah,
citizen
I
yesterday or
have
the day
seen the
before.
leak,
Some
yeah.
drunk ass dev said some shit about base building Q1 2024. The only other thing we know is that they're going to start development of it in Q1 2024. That would imply that it's already have been worked on. I don't believe any of that shit.
Well, they have some assets, and they show them at the CIG's panel.
Not only do they have assets, but don't forget the system. I forget what it's called, but the system that they use internally, yeah, Rastar, which is the tool that they use internally, was designed in mind with us using it. Right.
I know. I still just, there's no way Q1. No way Q1.
I mean,
that would be
crafting
insane.
Is I would say pretty easy because it's somehow in, but the question is, what does it include? What items can you craft? What materials do you need for it? And then there's also the question for what do you need the items for? I mean,
that's what I was going to say. Crafting only matters if you need things to craft. You don't need anything to craft in this game. There's nothing a player truly is grasping for, is reaching for. Like I played Valheim all Christmas break because it was the only thing that was like really enjoyable that was working on my Steam Deck that I wanted to play. And you know, you're always reaching for that next level of armor or next level of weapon or a new recipe.
They did it really well.
Yeah, and there, if that doesn't exist, then what's the point of crafting?
Yeah. Well, Chris should play a little bit more Valheim to inhale that more.
I know with his kids over the you know, remember the proof of life video, and that's what he was talking about.
Yeah. No, I'm curious if they managed that. What's also pretty interesting, and what was basically the most important thing for me to see or to hear at CitizenCon was if they shift the manpower from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen, and they actually said it. But here's the question: what does it actually mean? Who is coming up, and what impact does it have on which team? I mean, do we get people from the narrative team? Because I think the story should be fixed now. And what does it mean? Do we get now better single player mission stories in CitizenCon? In Star Citizen, do we get like chain missions like the what's it called? The mission with the Arlington gang mission, something like this. Does it get back? Do we get better mission givers? What impact does it have? So that would be interesting to see.
That's also an interesting one because they had an SCL this past year about, you know, this one guy coming on, his whole job was mission givers, and we've had zero updates to mission givers the entire year.
True.
So the expectation would be to maybe see something in 2024. I think they also hired more people on to work on that in a monthly report or something.
I hope they hire more gameplay people, gameplay engineers, because this is what we need. I don't need another ship. I just fucking need.
Don't need another ship. Don't need another
think
moon.
we're all
Don't need
there.
another planet. Don't need another anything.
Yeah, we have
need gameplay
There are a lot of assets, and we just need to
use them.
Be able to do something with them.
Yeah.
Something.
I want something to fight for.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's why people are really fixated on base building, is that they're hoping that it's a something that we fight over.
But why? Why would we fight over them? That's the problem, right?
Like, Jumptown was perfect until everything else started making better money.
Yeah. And when you fight over... Oh, sorry. Go.
I'm just going to say, like, it's all well and good that we'll be able to build bases, right? But I'm quite frankly, guys, I'm not interested in fighting over your collection of cocks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I have them.
Your
I don't
envelopes.
need them. Yeah. The envelopes, all right? Like, you can keep them.
No, and also interesting because it includes also what does orc gameplay at the end mean? I mean, if you have an orc and if you can get influence over an area in form of building your bases there or whatever, or something to conquer, you don't need to build a base, but you also maybe have the opportunity to take over a base from whoever. Then you may get some perks to enhance your influence, and then there is something you can fight over.
Could be interesting in terms of org gameplay if we could build like org storage facilities. So maybe that gold that you have, it's not selling for great amounts at the moment, so just put it into storage, right, and wait for the gold market to pick up again. And what if you find out that an org has all of this gold, right? Well, maybe you can go fight for it. Like, that's the type of stuff that I kind of really want to see.
That's also an interesting thing I thought about when you go into mining, for example, that you have like a storage facility at each station, and then if you mine, you can process the stuff and store it there because you're lazy and don't want to sell it. And then this would be a good place for other people who are into trading to give them a mission to say, hey, you can buy that from me and you have to pick it up here and you can sell it if you like, because I don't want to sell it. Storage facilities are maybe, I think, one of the biggest impacts you can have for the economy. Say the places where you can pick it up. There's something that creates missions. Pick it up here, deliver it to here. That would be a great idea.
Yeah. And Space, I think just because I got the text of I got a family thing today, so I would say let's wrap it up so we can get to the next caller. And then I think we're only going to do 2 today. I know that there was a third, so I'm going to apologize to them now. I think we got the callers a little bit late. So Jedi, I'll apologize to you, but we'll get to 2 today, and that's it.
All right.
I am running short on time.
Okay, sure, no worries. Some other things I'm looking forward to is what they do with scanning. How does hacking work? Bounty Hunter V2. We've not seen that at CitizenCon. Also interesting how this is going to work. And one thing I'm really curious and maybe also a bit worried about is the Maelstrom system. You mentioned it already, Moist. Because we saw that they have some problems with the entity count. And introducing something like this would actually ramp up or like greatly increase the entity count. And I'm curious how they want to deal with that. Because when you destroy a ship and it explodes in 100,000 pieces and they all lay around.
Yeah, they all have to exist.
Yeah, I don't know if server meshing, because server meshing is still connected to one of the databases, or at least I don't know how many databases they have at the end, but maybe there's also a bottleneck with the entity count. So I'm curious about how this works with the Maelstrom system.
Yeah, but entity count is what what a server is rendering, and the database is like where those things are located. They're 2 totally different things.
Yeah,
and
so right now,
2 different servers.
Yeah, but when you stream them in, you have still, I mean, if they persist, you have still this huge amount of pieces laying around, and this could cause some trouble if they don't get cleaned up. So let's see. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, we'll see. But again, maybe we'll we have to predict whether or not we even see server meshing in 2024.
I'm pretty sure about that.
Okay.
I'm pretty optimistic and positive because also with the leaked stuff you saw, I mean, for sure, I believe it when I see it if it's on my PC. But I think I'm pretty positive about it. I think they are pretty far, and I think we see it Q1 on the test system, which is also interesting to see now all the updates when you compare it to 4 years ago with all these. You get one big patch and then it's off for 3 months, and now you get little iterations. You have more channels, which means they're up in their processes of deliveries of. But I want to stop here because I want to give the others some opportunity. Sorry.
How kind. All right, Space. I want to say Happy New Year, and Space has been a very
Happy
regular
New Year.
caller towards the end of the year here. So thank you so much for your calls, and I've really enjoyed
Happy New Year.
conversations with you, man. Happy New Year.
Yeah, see you next year.
Yes, sir. All right, later, Space.
All right. Bye. Yeah.
All right, so that was Space. We'll bring on Frosty, and then we'll kind of wrap it up for today. After that, I guess. Hey, Frosty.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hello.
It's good. What about you?
Not too bad. So, what are your predictions for this coming year?
Right. So, functionality is probably going to be a big thing for COG. So, the star map, Mobiglass, HUD stuff, definitely a thing that they'll want to push because the stuff that we have got now is just not good enough, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Master modes in a limited capacity in AC, nowhere near enough to put it into the live server. That's the probably things are going to be the light fighters, medium and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Yogi was on about the fighters, so that's probably what they're working on right now, and they'll push it in as a to update what we have now, but with more ships.
But before you move on,
well,
I'll just because I'll kind of tie Jedi what he wanted to talk about into that because it was related. He was talking about what he was kind of curious what we thought about how leaving the QCM mode with 0 shields how we felt about that, how it will work, like popping into a big group. I just in general, I'll tie it in a little bit with how I'm feeling too with what you just mentioned is that yeah it's probably going to be mostly combat ships, but I think one of the most important things that is going to exist with this master mode change is like how does I've always been so concerned because who are the people that are always going to be targeted the most? There will be PvP fights that are arrow on arrow and arrow on F8C and all these things that Noodle was discussing, but I think a majority of the fights are going to end up being arrow on Prospector, arrow on C2, and what those experiences will be like. So yeah, I think we might see master modes in this PvP capacity, but I'm so curious to see what it's going to be like in the full implementation capacity of how these changes affect ships that were never meant to be in a 1v1, 2v1, 3v1, situation, and how all these changes that they're making are going to play into it. Flyaway is one of the things, but if you've ever played the game, usually if someone ends up on your radar, especially if you're like on a planet, it's not that easy to get away, especially with the current system of quantum dampening and things like that. It's a challenge. So the game is going to change significantly. So I'm curious how that happens.
That's probably why they're focusing so much on the combat, because they know where they want that to be, and obviously having AC that can bring that in until they get up to transport all those ships. So moving on, economy changes. They started doing that in 3.22 with the pricing of helmets, body armor stuff. They'll probably continue that with commodities and all that stuff. I don't see quantum coming in next year. There's no way.
Do you think they'll do it with like fuel and repair on ships? Or one thing that they've hinted at a lot or tried to do was insurance claim prices and timers. Do you think they'll finally go up?
It'll definitely go up at some point, but I don't think they'll be very harsh with it next year, if at all, really.
I mean, they tried to do it this year, right? But
they did,
the blowback from the community was not great. I think a big part of the issue though is people's expectations. I don't think people's expectations have been set correctly when it comes to timers.
Ever.
Yeah.
Because they've been so short for so many years. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm like, that this is actually one of my like hot take predictions, I guess, is I think the timers are gonna go up significantly, and the prices for repair, refuel, rearm are gonna go up significantly. Or excuse me, not repair, refuel, rearm as much as claiming your ship. I think they're going to go up a lot. And the reason being is what was supposed to be in 322 that didn't work? Repairing from soft death.
Yeah.
And if that actually is a thing, that's I don't know if I want that to be a thing. If we think about the tedium that is Star Citizen, that is definitely adding to it. But it's probably going to be the direction that they want to go. Is should we be reclaiming our ship so willy-nilly, right?
No, I think that the soft death repairs thing needs to be in before they start hiking up the timing, I think, because it gives them...
I'm going to hot take for a second as well, just to piggyback off what Mike was saying. I think another big part of the issue as well with ships being destroyed, like people do genuinely lose their ships for genuine reasons, but also because people's hands are being held so much with the short timers, a lot of people just they don't fly. I guess sound like such an old man saying this, but responsibly, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't fly with care or caution. And they also don't make great decisions. So I think once the timers do go up, then that will force people to fly with more care, to actually think about the things that they're doing and to plan ahead. You know.
Yeah. So Vulcan Renograph stuff, that's a given. That will come in probably early next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably one of the big hitters, I think, next year will be Bounty Hunter V2. That will probably come in later in the year because that can touch on lore.
What happened?
That can touch on. I've no idea.
Yeah, they just got really quiet about it.
Yeah, but I think obviously the show. I think it was this year that the show does those jail things with the pods. But I think they're meant for NPCs and players as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they'll only do NPCs at first with those stuff. But obviously, we've seen a taser, we've seen restraints at sitcom, but so I think that will be something at least next year. There's three things that I don't think will come in next year, but two of them are dependent on server mesh. And I think persistent hubs, hangars, freight elevators, and the building interiors, I think that's a little bit dependent on server meshing because I don't see any way they could get away with it without server meshing, especially with the instance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're moving from a server to your own in an instance space, so there's no point doing extra work just to put in that before you get to server meshing. So I think that's a 4.0 or later patch. So you got engineering, limited probably AC mode. They did mention that this year as well. I don't think that will be a full thing that goes to live. And also, the last thing, the new Qt experience, I don't think that will be a live feature because if I remember correctly, Yogi said that the demo that they played was a single player instance, it wasn't multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's really ready for a live, a multiplayer experience yet, because obviously that's a very physicalized thing. And I think they'd probably wait until server meshing is in, because obviously you're actually physicalized now. So obviously if they're going to be splitting up the Stanton system, Pyro, into different dedicated game servers, they'll want to do that work there, so there's no issues.
I think we're very quickly finding out that the things shown at CitizenCon were very much in a showable state, but not a deliverable state with the way things have come in so far. The one thing I want to touch on is something you just chatted about for a second. just to go back on our previous conversation about claim timers and all those other things, it's definitely possible that they wouldn't make that huge leap on claim timers and reclaiming prices without engineering being a thing.
True.
Because that likely would be the thing that improves time to explode rather than time to whatever being disabled would be.
Yeah.
So yeah, soft death is something that may disappear when that stuff happens, because being disabled will happen for a number of different reasons. You could do it to yourself, or somebody else can do it to you. So just to quickly touch on that, I agree. I don't think we see engineering outside of an Arena Commander experimental mode on a single ship or a couple, just to see what that looks like, because it's just the amount of ships they have to go through to fix that
yes,
situation.
It's the same with master modes. Basically, it's not going to be a thing until they get it dialed down.
But it's even worse because it involves art, and it's not numbers in the background; it's things we actually have to interact with. So it's so significantly worse, which is why I think on a Star Citizen Live, people were like, "Yo, what about subcomponents?" And they're like, "The team would literally kill the whole game would have to stop just for engineering to be implemented, because the entire studio would have to work on it." To say that I am not angry about something like that happening is what I would love to see with 2024 is themed patches. This is the cargo patch. This is the bounty hunter patch. This is the pyro patch, or this is the mining, whatever. And then everything. Mission team is working on mining missions. Reputation, working on reputation for that stuff. Or, bounty hunting, sweeping law system changes, stuff like that, along with missions and locations and everything related to that. Everybody on the same page would be so glorious, because following this year felt like everybody was in their own little bubble working on their own things. I think one of the best examples of go do a bounty mission versus what are the other basically bounty missions, but they're called something different. Service beacon, recover, whatever those things. They're bounty missions, but there's no cargo on those, but there's cargo on these, and it feels like everybody's just doing their own thing and nobody's working towards a cohesive gameplay experience. And that's my hope for 2024 is, we're throwing out all these features that we're going to get, but I really hope somebody ties them together a little bit. And I think the only thing we have that could do that is reputation, maybe. But
yeah, because for me this year, next year, it needs to be about stability and functionality, because they need to get that locked in before they start opening up things, 4.0 and beyond. One thing that I didn't mention is, obviously now we've got mining, salvage, so mining, salvage. But I think that one thing that I think that will probably touch on is refinery ship. I think it will at least get one refinery ship next year.
Yeah,
because that will tie it nicely, to be honest, instead of keep on going to stations, etc. But yeah, I think that's it really. They just need to. Well, with people coming back from Squadron as well, I think from what we've seen years ago with them, iterating on things by patch, because obviously since the move to Squadron first and then PU later, that changed. So with more people coming back, hopefully we see more things being iterated on. That's currently in there, but yeah, functionality is one of the top priorities, because right now it's not really good and not a good standard in general, really.
No, yeah, it's just bringing in as many systems as they can, tie them as close together as they can. Not expecting much there, but also just making it a little bit more interesting, I guess. So
yeah,
or functional, I should say, not interesting. But yeah, all right, Frosty. Well, Happy New Year! Thank you so much for calling in, and Jedi. Hopefully, we got to your stuff a little bit, but I apologize we didn't get to you today. So, Frosty, we'll catch you, and me and Noodle are going to wrap it up with everybody.
Yep. See ya.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
You
Year.
too. See ya.
Bye. So, Noodle, final thoughts about maybe how was this past year for you, Star Citizen wise, and how do you think next year will be? Do you think it's been a rough couple of years? Do you think, I know that the year will feel better, but how much better? Because I think we've had definitely these small incremental little bits of excitement the last few years, but is 2024 going to be different?
I think this last year has been a little bit difficult because for me, at least, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it didn't feel like there was too much to be excited about. Yeah. Whereas it definitely feels like there's quite a lot to be excited about for 2024, especially for me. I think there's going to be, like I said, I'm really excited for the new UI changes. I'm looking forward to new ship MFDs. I'm looking forward to trying out master modes more. Looking forward to, there's just so much for everyone, I think, in 2024. That's
true.
Yeah, I know.
It feels like there's a bit for everybody.
I don't think it's going to be the year for Star Citizen because, like I said earlier, remember with these huge sweeping changes, and again, they're going to be not just adding new gameplay and replacing features, but they're going to be adding core new tech to the game, and that tends to break things at a fundamental level very often. So it's going to be buggy. So while we're going to be excited about some things, I'm sure there are going to be days where I'm losing my mind about performance or about instability at other times. But
even little things, time to kill changes in FPS, like go play Gun Rush. It is so good with some guns and so horrible with others, right? Like just things that are seemingly not that big of a deal to change obviously have bigger knock-on effects, and everything they showed at CitizenCon is going to have large knock-on effects for the rest of the game, right? So, I mean, look, just even structural salvage coming in, they make one economy change fix where there was tons of exploits of how much money people were making right into another one, right? And it just...
Do you know what I'm going to be doing today?
What are you doing today?
I'm going to go salvaging, dude. I'm going to go... do you know how much I made in the first, 4 to 5 minutes I started stream yesterday?
6 million.
10 million, dude.
Yeah.
And 45 minutes. And do you know what I did last night off stream? While I was jump towning in between the fights, I bought somebody a reclaimer, dude.
Nice. That's what we do at the org. We make as much money as we can, and people in the org request ships, and we just send them the money.
Yeah. Oh, this was just a random person in global chat. They were like, "Oh man, I really want a reclaimer." I was like, "Yeah, have some money, dude." And then, I got so much money, I don't know what to do with it right now. And do you know what? I don't want to whine, but do you know what drives me crazy is that they changed the amount of drugs that spawn at the missions, but then now we have this mission. It's so wild to me, dude.
Yep.
It's so wild, and they've just left it as well.
Yeah. And just so other people know, I saw the dev in my chat. You can do ERT bounties and still get tons of Weevil eggs. They're gonna crush that too. So get your Weevil eggs while you can over the holiday break. It's over after that. So yeah, it's ruined the game. I think that's one thing that if I was gonna comment on this year, so many crazy economic horrible changes. Yeah. No wipes. I see that mentioned in chat. They can't wipe yet. Every single time we update, people are losing ships, losing components, all those things. They have to prove that they can actually go through a patch without losing items before they can actually wipe something to be like, yeah, guys, whatever progress you make from now on is going to actually be your progress. And so what's the point of wiping if there's still problems and people are losing things?
Can I just elaborate on you saying how this mission has kind of ruined the game? I can give a great...
Sort of, yeah.
Well, it depends on how you play the game, right?
Yeah.
I think if you play the game and you're a very solo player, it doesn't really make a difference. But for somebody like me, remember what I was saying earlier?
Make a difference. Just to quickly interject, I think it makes a difference because they feel as a solo player can do things that groups should actually be doing.
True.
And they're enjoying
True.
the game more, because anytime I've made an argument of like, soloing the Reclaimer should never be a thing, and people are like, oh dude, I'm having so much fun, like don't ruin my fun. And it's like, well, yeah, you are, but like you got to think about the game overall. If you really bought the Reclaimer and didn't make friends, that's a bad decision on yourself, right? But don't ruin it for what the game should be, right?
Yeah, like just to use an example, right? People are making so much money at this mission location, and these mission locations, they're not random. They're around Yella. I don't know how many. Say there's 8 specific mission locations, and it will spawn this hammerhead at one of those locations, right?
Yep.
So unless somebody is specifically camping one of those locations in the hope that a Reclaimer turns up to do the mission there, or they already have a mission there, whatever, you're not going to come across these people, right? So essentially what's happened is people are making so much money from this mission, no one's running JT. The only people running JT are people who want the engagement of it, right? And generally, there's just no one anywhere. Like, it's just so hard to find anyone in the verse to interact with. And the whole reason I play this game is because I want to have those social interactions with people. Yeah. Again, like I said earlier, I want to feel like I'm living in a universe, but now it just feels completely empty because everybody's sat in Reclaimers at this empty spot, and making ridiculous sums of money.
Yeah, like, dude, every situation that has brought people together significantly for long periods of time, or a lot of people to one place, have always been, oh shit, the cat just like slipped off my lap. I just grabbed her. Are like exploits. The original Jumptown, V2 and Gold, or Laranite at Bezdek, or all these like cargo hauling exploits, essentially. Mining for a little while, but not really. So like that's what really did. I mean, Ghost Hollow actually for a little bit there was a really good spot, and didn't make a ton in comparison to what we're making now. And people thought that was crazy. 300K per hour. Remember that? That was a big deal 6-8 months ago. But my dream, this is my biggest stretch, would be for 2024 for something other than money to be the thing that brings everybody together. What that will be, I have no idea. But that would be the absolute dream, because this game should not be a situation where we're all just soloing alone with no risk, no reward, or just no interaction. It doesn't even have to be a risky location, dude. One of the best times was just, as stupid as it sounds, was like people conga lining at Jumptown and just watching how they interacted. Dude, and whether or not you destroyed it.
Went to a conga line was so good.
Yes, so like it was so fun to just mix in with the casuals, and then eventually not mix in with the casuals.
Just to jump in, I want to comment on something that Energy said in chat. He said, why does it matter who has more money? That's not the point that we're making. No. The point that we're making, as Mike just pointed out, it's not about the money, it's about the interactions with other players. We are playing a multiplayer game. We're not playing a single player game. The reason a lot of us play this game is because we want to have those interactions. We want to have the cool armor and the cool ship to show off to other people. Well, what's the point in having that stuff if you can't show it off to other people, right? I personally just look forward to a time when we have more gameplay that encourages people to gather in a place. To talk about another game for a second, as cringe as this might sound, some of the best times I ever had in gaming were World of Warcraft. And quite frankly,
Ultimate Online for me, same thing.
Back in season 1 of PvP seasons for World of Warcraft, wearing my armor set in Stormwind was the coolest shit, dude. The coolest shit. Everyone just standing around seeing how much of a badass I am because I have no life. Right? Yeah. And that's what I want from Star Citizen.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that'll always be, unfortunately, hindered now by like the funding model with certain things. But that's the other thing, would be like, I want to see the no life stuff, dude. Like, just something as silly, like anybody who played Ultima Online, like there was people selling white worms at Brit Bank, and just like that being so far out of reach for me, and then eventually it not being out of reach is what, you know, just, and I'm using an Ultima Online example. Everybody makes fun of me for playing an old game or talking about an old game still, but those moments I'll never forget, and I don't have those moments in Star Citizen, where you look at something that is so far out of reach for you, but when you achieve it, it feels like a proper achievement, and it feels really good, right? And yeah, I guess the Vandal Mask is the other one that I mentioned about that was something that was out of my reach, and when I achieved it, it was like one of the best feelings ever. And as they continue to ruin it, oh, it's great.
I really feel like that was one of the best videos you ever made.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. One of my best for sure, because it was one of the only times that I played the game and told the story and didn't just talk about the game. You know,
that is what it is. It was you telling a story, overcoming, like learning as you go, learning new skills to overcome difficulty, right? Not difficulty, it's probably the wrong word, but
a challenge. It was a challenge.
A challenge, yeah.
Yeah,
really, really
it was
good.
a real challenge for me. And like having Virgil explain, like, this is how to set up your ship, and having that light bulb moment of like, oh, wow, that does work a lot better. And back then it wasn't as much of skill in piloting as it was just setup, you know, and then you were going to beat 90% of the people. Even that was still just like an exciting thing. And then at the very end, killing the person that had killed me so many times too. It was just like perfect, dude. It was like a Daisy Frankie on PC video kind of thing. And yeah, I'll never forget that moment. And that's why like people always mention, oh, he's crying again about the Vandal Mask, but that's the only moment I've ever had in this game.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only moment I ever had.
It was such a fun event. Such a fun event.
Yeah. That's it. And we've never had an event like that again.
No. Dude, can I bring something up that Jedi mentioned earlier again? Please. Before we get done? Yeah. The F8. Sorry to bring up the F8 again, but CIG, it's one of my favorite things that CIG do, and I think it's Jake that does it.
I'll bring it up again.
Is the infographic. I love the infographics they bring out, and I find, oh, Kostin's in chat. Hi, Kostin. I find it absolutely insane that, when did the F8 event start? Wasn't it October?
Yeah, like 3 months ago.
It came out in October, and it's the ship that has the 5th most amount of kills in the entire game.
I don't even think the Corsair came out at the beginning of, like, the very, very beginning of 2023.
Yeah.
I think it was like into 2023.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, and by the way, like, no meta ships, PvP meta ships here, except for maybe the Scorpius.
Yeah,
maybe.
True, actually. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Until you get to the F8.
Yeah. Again,
because it's people just farm bounty. I don't know how they do it, dude. People farm those bounty missions and enjoy it. It's not my thing. It's too repetitive.
I can do it to a certain degree, but it depends on server performance. Like when you go to a mission and the NPC isn't even moving, I can't do that.
Yeah,
like I at least want to have a little bit of fight, you know.
Let me tell you, the tying in salvage and cargo hauling and all that stuff to those bounty missions has been a big win for 2023.
We're seeing the loops finally starting to close, and it's all coming together.
Yep, it won't close really until exciting. Crafting, Noodle. That's the close.
And I tell
really
you what's
most closing.
I tell you what's most exciting about this is that it encourages people to work as a group a little bit more. You know, you actually have somebody going and creating that salvage, then you can have friends behind you coming and doing the salvaging.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's super exciting to me.
I feel like people weren't listening before because they're all talking about like grinding to get ERTs to get the really good cargo. Yeah, they're nerfing that one, guys. Like, that's actually going away. Enjoy it while you have, because they're all saying, there's a couple people saying in chat that that's been like their favorite loop of the year. Well, that loop's gone. So one of the other things, and I guess I'll leave, this will be my last little prediction, is I really expect the rate at which we earn money to get completely nerfed for everywhere. Like, I
think so, yeah.
I think that instead of their goal being exclusively on like the price of cargo or the price of armor or things like that, I think they're going to insert sinks this year, but I think they also really need to address how much money people are making and how to deal with that. And I have to be very careful about this situation because you and I, as content creators, definitely are both concierge, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's not really fair to have these conversations. You only have an Aurora?
Yeah.
You're glorious. Yeah. But that, like, for people, I think it's really hard for me to have, you know, a ship list that I scroll down forever and talk about how we need more gold sinks and stuff like that because some people
I genuinely
have to earn ships in the game.
I talk about this and some people do get mad, but I genuinely do look forward to a time where we pay taxes and pay for docking fees.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course.
100%.
100%.
That's actually something I'm looking forward to. And obviously, again, for people who aren't concierge, that can be really concerning, right? But obviously, if you're not concierge, then it's going to scale. So you don't have to pay.
People who are concierge are going to get owned by these things, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Noodle, I really appreciate you coming on. I messaged him yesterday, so like in super short notice, and you know, filling in for Croncy. Croncy will be back next week, guys. For some of the people that were asking, but what a year! I think what a difficult year it was, and I think if anything, I hope we never have to experience a year like 2023 ever again. That would be my only
hope. Do you know the
hope.
funny thing? Do you remember the long gap between 2.6.3 and 3.0?
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, man, I hope we never have to go through that again.
This was significantly worse.
This was worse, dude.
This was worse because the game was somewhat there.
Yeah.
And the excitement around the game was so much higher.
Yeah.
At that moment. And the fact that like my account didn't work for a month and multiple accounts didn't work for a month.
Yeah.
The only account I had a Mustang Omega on it that I could play. That was it.
Oh, perfect, dude. That's what you need.
I know, but it was just like, and I enjoyed actually using it. But the that was a really tough beginning of the year, and to get through that and come out the other side and have the second half of the year that they did has to show that 2024 could really be something.
What's crazy is that it's been one of the worst years for me, but at the same time, it's had like these absolutely amazing golden nuggets thrown in as well. Like, for example, the period where everyone was trading at SMO 22, 18, and 10. Piracy during that time was so much fun, dude. And I was running a crew every single day of like 15 people, and it was a whole like we were saying a few minutes ago about, you know, wanting those social aspects of the game. That is what I'm talking about. Also, like the fights at Brios were just incredibly fun. And you know, not to end on a negative, but the reason we were just kind of whining a little bit about the mission that makes so much money at the moment is because it's taken all that away, right? So yeah, forwards onto 2024, and hopefully we get some more golden nuggets to enjoy. I hope, at least.
Okay, well, I'm getting yelled at, so I definitely have to go.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap it up. I didn't realize that the time was passing as quickly as it was. So 2024, I can't be any more excited for. 2023, I can't be any more excited to close the door on. Yep. Happy New Year, Noodle. I look and just as a note for things that are coming for the future for us, we're going to be streaming together a lot over the next couple of weeks, I assume. YouTube videos definitely on Noodle's side. I'm kind of lazy, so we'll see if it's on my side. But my goal is to get much more competent in defending myself and fighting and all those things. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. And hopefully Noodle's going to get really good at mining rocks. But that's our plan for the new year. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe. And I can't wait to see what 2024 brings. Noodle, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful time. And I can't do this without Croncy. It's so cringe, but don't forget to answer the call. Maybe we'll get rid of this in 2024. I really hope we do. That's my New Year's resolution, to never do that again.